In March 1928, in dense fog, the steamer Merimbula crashed onto the rocks, ending a tradition begun in 1858 by the Illawarra and South Coast Steamship Navigation Company. At Tathra, on the far south coast of New South Wales, stands a very modest memorial to the shipping line that helped forge the history of the area. On display are a number of historic photographs and models of several ships once operated by the company. Although passenger services were cancelled with the loss of the Merimbula, the company laboured on until it closed in 1950, a victim of improving roads and a more efficient railway. But in the latter part of the 19th century, there was no such competition. The only reliable transport to Sydney was by steamship. In 1883, the Illawarra Company took delivery of a new twin-screw steamer, the Bega. The vessel became a local favourite, and over the next 25 years it completed hundreds of voyages between the far south coast of New South Wales and Sydney. On the evening of April 5th, 1908, the Bega lay tied up to the Tathra wharf, ready to depart. During the previous week, a dispute between union and non-union labour spread to both the north and south coast, disrupting the passenger service and the cargo movements. This was a major problem for many livestock exhibitors, desperate to get their animals to Sydney for the Royal Easter Show. In addition to the prize animals in the forward hold, the ship carried 176 pigs as deck cargo. Loaded to capacity and with a slight list to port, the Bega departed the wharf at 7 p.m. It was a perfect night for sea travel, with a smooth ocean and a little breeze. In command of the ship was Stephen Bishop. He had gained notoriety with the wreck of the Kamarooka, south of Moruya Heads in October 1897. Bishop took over the command of the Kamarooka when the captain was knocked out after the vessel grounded near the shore. He tied ropes to several pigs, threw them overboard and watched as the plucky animals swam the lines to the beach, enabling everybody to reach safety. An hour after the Bega left port, the captain noticed the ship's list had increased. Bishop, hoping to correct the problem, shifted the pigs to the opposite side. Briefly, the ship righted herself, only to be followed by a far more threatening tilt to the starboard. For the Bega and her complement, these were desperate times, and they called for extreme decisions. Bishop, for whom history seemed to be repeating itself, didn't hesitate. He ordered the first mate to tear off the side rails and drive the pigs overboard. However, the Bega's fate was sealed, and shortly afterward the captain ordered the crew to abandon ship. In lifeboats and rafts, the crew and passengers watched quietly as the ship sank, and then set off, eventually landing further down the coast. Bermagui Harbour, on the far south coast of New South Wales, the departure point for the 28-kilometre run down the coast to the wreck site. In stunning 50-metre visibility, divers descend to the 100-year-old wreck, lying at a depth of 76 metres, 250 feet. Like a silent guardian over the wreck, a large fishing net is suspended at the stern of the ship, festooned in colourful anemones. The starboard side of the hull reveals a stunning scene of nannygai hovering above the ship's boiler. Lying in the sand are scores of breeding Port Jackson sharks, a regular occurrence in the winter months. A diver swims above the remnants of the forward hold. Below, the remains of the prized animals that perished on their journey to the 1908 Royal Easter Show. The steamship's engines. Known as Rankin's Wonders, they were manufactured by Rankin and Blackmore of Glasgow. Classed as a two-cylinder disconnected compound engine, the high pressure drove the starboard propeller, while the low pressure drove the port. Often hard to fire up when the piston was dead centre, the engines were fitted with a large cranking lever that could thrash about upon starting, risking life and limb. The engineers soon learned to avoid it. Highlighted against the cobalt colour of the sea, twin bronze pressure relief valves still maintain their position on the top of the boiler. Lying on the port side of the hull are the remains of the ship's funnel, now a sanctuary for small stingrays. Artefacts can be seen scattered across the entire length of the steamer. A chamber pot. Portholes. Dinner plates. It was one of these plates that confirmed the wreck as the Bega. Like all ships lying on a sandy bottom, marine life is drawn to the structure. Around the perimeter are the bottom dwellers. Swarms of fish congregate over the hull. While seals dart easily from the surface, around the wreck and back again. And then there is the stunning and unforgettable experience of a huge sunfish. The remains of a lifeboat davit, the same one shown in this photograph. It lies across the back deck. It was here that the Bega's only fatality, David Clark, died of a heart attack shortly before the ship was abandoned. His body was wrapped in a tarpaulin and placed into a lifeboat. However, with the little space available, several people were forced to sit on it. Clark's was one of only 3 lives lost in almost a century of service by the Illawarra Steamship Company. On a wreck that is quite often swept by strong currents, a diver glides easily around the stern, revealing one of the Bega's twin propellers. The remnants of the saloon bathroom. Several wash basins, the taps still attached, lie beside the portholes. Here a small cabin sink stands in the original position, inside the hull. Damaged on her journey to the ocean floor, the Bega's bow was barely recognisable. On their arrival back in Sydney, the Bega's crew were met by police and management of the company, who interviewed each and every member separately. The usual situation of a vessel foundering in calm weather and the lingering industrial dispute brought accusations that the crew had deliberately scuttled the ship by opening her seacocks. This was never proven. Two hours after they have entered the water, the divers surface. Their decompression is complete. It's winter and bitterly cold. The seemingly simple task of opening the clips holding the tanks can be quite frustrating. The pictures tell the story as this diver struggles up a ladder in the rocking sea. To the layman, the effort involved in making a 25 or 30-minute dive may seem disproportionate. Every additional minute spent at these depths incurs an enormous decompression penalty. The expense to get to the wreck site by road and then by boat, the cost of the gas and the equipment, the sheer physical strength needed to deal with it. But for the dedicated wreck diver, there can be no greater exhilaration than to drop into a gin-clear ocean, follow the anchor line down and be met by a century-old shipwreck lying silently on the ocean floor. The wreck of the steamship Bega is one of New South Wales' finest examples.